All right, well, hello and good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to Engineering for Change, or E4C for short. Today, we're very pleased to bring you this month's installment of the Engineering for Change Seminar Series, which aims to intellectually develop the field of engineering for global development. We host a new research institution monthly to learn about their work in advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Today's seminar is presented by Dr. Carmelo de Maria, who is an assistant professor of bioengineering and information engineering at the University of Pisa, and we're so thrilled to have him. My name is Yana Aranda, and I'm the president of Engineering for Change, and I'll be one of the moderators for today's seminar, along with Dr. Jesse Austin-Brenneman, who you'll learn a little bit more about on this slide. He is the assistant professor of mechanical engineering at the University of Michigan and one of the co-leads for the Engineering Global Development Research Committee at the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, where E4C is housed, along with a lot of other incredible accomplishments. So we won't go through his entire bio. The seminar you're participating in today will be archived on E4C's site and our YouTube channel. Both of the URLs for those channels is available on the slide. Information on upcoming seminars is available on the E4C site. E4C members will receive invitations to upcoming seminars directly. If you have any questions, comments, and recommendations for future topics and speakers, please do contact the E4C team at research@engineeringforchange.org. And if you're following us on Twitter today, we invite you to join the conversation with our dedicated hashtag E4C Seminar Series. Now, before we move on to our presenter, I'd like to tell you a bit about Engineering for Change and who we are, if you're connecting to us for the first time. E4C is a knowledge organization, digital platform, and global community of more than 1 million engineers, designers, development practitioners, social scientists, and others who are leveraging technology to solve quality of life challenges faced by underserved communities. Some of those challenges include access to clean water and sanitation, sustainable energy, improved healthcare, and more. We invite you to become a member. E4C membership is free and provides access to news and thought leaders, insights on hundreds of essential technologies in our solutions library, professional development resources, and current opportunities such as jobs, funding calls, fellowships, and more. In fact, there's a number of really excellent positions that are listed on E4C's opportunities portal now. I encourage you to explore them. E4C members also receive exclusive invitations to online and regional events and access to resources aligned to their interests. We invite you to visit our website, engineeringforchange.org, and to learn more and sign up. E4C's research work cuts across geographies and sectors to deliver an ecosystem view of technology for good. Original research is conducted by Engineering for Change Research Fellows annually on behalf of our partners and sponsors, and delivered as digestible reports with actionable insights. We invite you to visit our research page, the URL is listed on the slide, to explore our field insights, research collaborations, and review the state of engineering for global development, a compilation of the academic programs and institutions offering training and research opportunities in the sector. If you have research questions or want to work with us on a research project as a research fellow or as a partner, please contact us at research@engineeringforchange.org. I'm also very excited to invite you all to join us at our upcoming event. Impact Engineered is going to be happening on December 3rd and 4th from approximately 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each day. It's going to be a phenomenal event featuring our entire community of designers, engineers, academic researchers, impact investors, and funders, focusing on what it will take to achieve the 2030 agenda. Our theme is Partnerships for a Decade of Action. You are welcome to register for free. You will see that our key themes this year include ecosystems for social impact, pole-to-pole innovation, focusing on improving lives and livelihoods through enterprise, and the role of engineering societies and academic institutions driving sustainable development. Make sure to register ASAP as we will close registration on December the 1st. Now, I know that likely most of you are already Zoom experts or Zoom spurts, if you want to call them that, but we do want to make sure that we take a little practice run of our panel here, or sorry, of our platform here. So we want to ask you to use the chat window to please type in your location. I'll join you in this. So I see folks from Texas and Ohio, Utah, and I'm here in Brooklyn, Maine, and North Carolina, Pennsylvania, the Netherlands, Jordan, Rochester, New York, and Virginia. Welcome, everyone. We're so pleased to have you. Please do use the chat window to share any remarks during the seminar. If you have any technical questions, you can also send a private chat to the Engineering for Change admin. And if you have any troubles with the audio broadcast, feel free to just also consider stopping and restarting. During the seminar, we really do encourage you to use the Q&A window that is also available in the bottom of your screen to type in any questions for our presenter, as we will tabulate those and ensure that everyone, every question is addressed either on the seminar or afterwards on our platform. All right, so just as a reminder. So again, welcome everyone from Lebanon to Bosnia-Herzegovina, Portugal, and Luanda, Angola. I actually grew up in Luanda. Welcome. First time I'm seeing someone from Luanda in our seminar. So excited to have you here, as well as from Plymouth, Michigan. Welcome. All right, so with that, I'm so pleased to introduce our speaker. Dr. Carmelo de Maria is an assistant professor of bioengineering at the Department of Oh man, I'm going to try this in Italian, Carmelo. Forgive me for getting it absolutely terrible, but Ingegneria dell'Informazione. Bene. At the University of Pisa and affiliated with the research center E Piaggio. He is guest professor in bioengineering at Addis Ababa University and a member of the African Biomedical Engineering Consortium Secretariat. His research interests are in the field of additive manufacturing and rapid prototyping technologies, with a particular focus on biofabrication. He has several papers published in international scientific journals. In 2016, he received the first award as a young investigator from the International Society for Biofabrication. He will be speaking to you today about UBORA, so we're so excited to hear from him. And he is also the co-founder and president of the Fab Lab Pisa. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Carmelo, I welcome you to share your slides.
Okay, thank you very much, Jana, for the introduction, and welcome to all the people in the floor. So good morning or good afternoon for those who are coming from Europe, as I saw. As Jana presented, I'm from University of Pisa, and I'm working in the field of additive manufacturing, 3D printing, to be like a bit less formal. And thanks to this background, I came in contact with a very large group of people who are trying to use those technology to improve the health in low resources settings. This is like the story, and how to merge this technological research with the research on the how we can improve the access in medical technologies. So let me share my screen. Oh, share screen. Here we have. I hope you can see my presentation. I have some slides that, of course, will be shared with all the people who will ask for them. Today, I'm going to speak about UBORA. This is a platform, a virtual platform for co-design open source medical devices. So a lot of topics in this presentation. The key elements are open source medical device and the platform, which is enabling technology for promoting this new way for producing medical technologies. Just few coordinates, just to understand the story and how we arrived to achieve those results and try to have an impact on daily life. We started in the past, I was still like students, high school, master students, where University of Pisa coordinated the project together with the KTH in Sweden for capacity building in the Southeast Asia. And then thanks to this contact, the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa contacted our director, the director of Research Center, Enrico Piaggio, the Professoressa Alualia, to be part of a new consortium that was established in 2012. This consortium is called ABEC, African Biomedical Engineering Consortium, funded by UNECA, who is trying to promote innovation through education. So the idea is that we can solve the problem if we empower our youth with the tools for design the medical device that the local population really needs. So we started with the activities at the beginning in Chambogo in Uganda, and then with a series of summer schools every year in a different location. So Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Egypt. And then with the time, the community is growing. Now we are around 19 universities spread around 10 countries who are collaborating in the field of biomedical engineering. And we are looking for synergies with all the associations who are working in the field. As a consortium, what we do is simply try at the beginning was to have a shared curriculum in biomedical engineering. So those universities would like to jump and to use this for the course are free to pick what they need, and of course asking for review of their own curriculum. And then we started with this summer school, this annual appointment in which students coming from all these universities apply to a competition. And then the winner of this competition were invited to physically have this school of 1 week. The things are growing up. For example, now we are running a project. It's called African Biomedical Engineering Mobility. It's a sort for the people who are coming from Europe, it's sort of Erasmus project for enabling the mobility of technicians and students, including PhD students, across the partners. So students can apply, you can apply. I hope that many people can join us and have, for example, a second round of this mobility. So this is like our background. Since the first design school where I participated in 2013, it was in Kenya, we were in the boom of Fab Labs. What is a Fab Lab? Fab Lab is a place where people can share tools and ideas and create solutions for solving a problem in a very practical way, in which theoretical knowledge is put in place together with the hands ability. So it's hands-on problem-solving method. So with this in mind, we started to conceptualize how to exploit those energy and try to be productive. And we came out with this platform called UBORA, who was funded by the European Union for co-design medical device. Let's do step by step. So first, a question just to break the ice. According to you, if I want to bring a new medical device from concept to market, how much is the cost? Try to have your, let's say, to make an answer. Less than 1 million, between 1 and 10, from 10 to 50, more than 50, like a cost of low to moderate risk device. I don't know if you see my screen. I avoid to make the answer. Okay, perfect. From 1 to 10 million, it's the majority of you try to respond. Actually, the correct answer is number 3. It's pretty expensive. This is an estimation and that I found in some reviews and then gave a look to the original paper. The problem is that when we speak about a medical device, we have to think about the world cycle, which is not simply the academic research, which is important, but then from concept and development, you have to think how to fabricate, packaging and labeling, or promote through the doctors, shipping, selling, use, and of course disposal. This is a long life cycle with a lot of stakeholders that needs to be engaged. Even the environment is one of your stakeholders. You need to take care, for example, of the batteries. In addition to this, I'm glad to say that this market is very strictly regulated because health is wealth and wealth is health. And as a citizen, you have the right to be to use the correct device without any risk. And so medical device regulation, for example, here in Europe is like in a European law, is in a European regulation that take care about the safety and efficacy of the device. Without going in detail, which is out of the scope of the topic, but of course it's normal that there is like low risk device and high risk device. And if you think about, glasses is a low risk device with respect to, to a pacemaker. You need to have different ways of control because the risk in which you are exposed is less or more. But in any case, if you buy a glass, you want that that glass will solve your problem. And so the first thing is to take care about the risk. This analysis, this test that you will perform to have safe device, it's very expensive. And it's like normal if you think about the number of people that are involved with. So this is like for high risk products, the price is more than double. We are speaking about $10 million, maybe $100 million for high risk product. So just to move this perspective from, high resources settings, how can be United States, how can be the general, area of Europe, but think about countries in which you have low resources settings. Some countries in Africa, some countries in the southeast of Asia, or scenarios where you have a war, a civil war, or like political instability. This is like a very quite old estimation, but most of the devices that have been used in Africa are coming from donation. But most of, let me move, I'm sorry, I have to move. Most of these are not working because they have been designed to be used in a very perfect environment. So in case you have dust, in case you have, you don't do maintenance properly, they are not going to work after a few months. And of course, so you have to think about spare parts, consumable, and you have to train people. You have to empower people to use this device properly. And when we speak about like dust, but I have to think also about clean water, power supply, that can be difficult to find in all the locations of the world, but we cannot rely on the fact that in some places of the world the situation is good. The majority of the world, think about the current emergency that we are facing for COVID-19, are working in a not ideal scenario. And we cannot force doctors to adapt the surgery, the practice to adapt their practice, and we as an engineer cannot think about a not ideal condition. So we need to shift the perspective. And I mean, this is like a must in the SDG number 3 for good health and well-being. And this is the framework in which we are living. So we try to think, what about, which is the role of open and collaborative design? Can this approach in design do better than the current situation? Let's say the advantage of collaborative design are accessibility, sustainability, improved performance, reliability, and safety. This is like in theory. In theory, if you can review the device dossier, this is intrinsically safer. If you can enable people to collaborate with their own idea, with their own skills, with a little effort, you can improve a lot the quality of the device. This is like the ideal scenario, and we need to find a way to enable this scheme. Please consider that open does not mean free. Free in sense with no cost. There is a cost. That cost can be shared, can be reduced, but of course, if you take an open source project, an open source design, and you create on that project your own business, you have the right to earn money to keep the process going. But the original design is free for all the people who want to still improve your device with a continuous improvement of the original design. And there are a lot of projects that are trying to exploit this approach. There are a very nice community, it's called Enabling the Future, Enable community, that are providing hands for prosthetic hands for children. There are a lot of solutions that can be used not as a medical device, but as a technology that can improve the daily life, like tools for elderly. There are situations in which you are in an embargo, like in the Gaza Strip, where people trying to 3D print the stethoscope. So there are a lot of places where you have space for open source design, space for shared blueprints of the prototypes, which is a completely different scenario with respect to share the blueprints of a production line. Okay, this is the place where we are working. So we try to make a definition. We are academic. From a certain point, we need to find our coordinates. And we use the words that are currently shared in the open source community. What is an open source medical device? It's a device whose design and product development information are public available. And you share those information in a format that can allow improvements. But of course, keep in mind that we are not out of the regulation. We are in the regulation. The product still is a product with the idea that the authorities can control the product. The product means the production line, the way you produce and deploy the project. Because if you have a good project, a bad production line, your product will never be on the market. But if you have a good project, a good starting point, and then you can transform it in a good production line, you have a good product that can go on a patient. Our idea is that if we have a shared infrastructure, we can provide companies and research centers with a sort of Wikipedia, let's say a medical device, where you can pick and grab information and contribute with those information in a structured way, you can reduce the cost. And you can focus also on topics that are less fashion, less, mainstream. You can have your specific device for that specific population with the add-ons, with the option that can help those devices to be deployed in a specific country. So this is the way, and in UBORA we try to promote the prototyping, the design for prototyping of those devices in a structured way, in a way that you will never forget any point that is necessary for certification. During the project, we try to include the safety of the device directly in the design. We use it like a methodology. The name is important, but just for some people to see, the methodology, but there are many ways in which you can develop the medical device. There's the bio device, by design. There are these methods called the CDIO, conceive, design, implement, operate. What is really important is that you need to start from need and clinical, clinical specification and standards, ISO standards, who can drive you in the correct way to do not waste time to go back and redo your prototype because it's not compliant with the certification requirement that you need to test it. Let's make an example. You cannot choose the color of your LED for doing your device with the color that you like. You need to respect the green light, the red line, the flashing red line. There is a standard explaining you how to choose the light. If you know since the beginning, you will save money and time later without redesign back. Or let's make a very simple like analysis. If you have to design a crutch, you need to know if you want to go on the market, you need in Europe a CE mark. The CE mark will require that the crutch can resist to a load of 100 kilograms. You need to know that specification. And usually at the university level, no one is telling you that in the ISO standard, you can find that number. There is like a very tricky way to test those devices is to put the crutch in a fridge, like around minus 16 degrees, and then pull it out and let it move, like flow, go on the floor for 5 times, 6 times without any damage. This is a way to check the quality of your device. If you know since the beginning, if you know the requirements, for sure you will find the best solution without the need for redesign. And this is like the platform that we created with this in mind to enable you to follow since the beginning the specification. This is the way that we are trying to teach to our students how to design. We have like a curricular course here at the University of Pisa, but the same like a twin course is in Madrid with another partner of UBORA. We have other courses, other partners are doing this in Bologna or in UK in Warwick. I invite you to visit the platform. Just skip this part. I don't want to be very long with this introduction part, but if you go in it, you can find a place where you can provide your clinical need. Will be like helped by a group of people working on the platform to move from the clinical need expressed like with simple words to technical specification. And from those technical specification, you can start a project. And for each clinical needs, probably there will be more than one solution, but it's important to like do this matchmaking and connect healthcare practitioner with engineers and do like a team. Once you create the project, then usually if you are an engineering student, immediately you start to do simulation, immediately you start to do calculation, immediately try to do something with your CAD design or try to 3D print a prototype. Wait. If you do not analyze in detail your project, if you don't spend time to careful, ask to the people who will use your device this, let's say, human-centered design, if you want to use like a acronym, or like fancy or mainstream definition. If you don't do this, your project will fail. My first prototype, the ones that I did during the first school in Africa, was full of buttons to do, was a sort of baby, not a baby warmer, like a tools for monitoring baby monitor. It has like a button for temperature, a button for the camera, a button for whatever. And the doctors look at this and say, good toy. I need one button because I have like 12 babies in one room and I cannot spend 20 minutes remembering how it works. So please, one button, no button probably is better, but one button is more than enough, probably on and off. So that was like very important for me. So what we did is to providing a step-by-step procedure for you to, first of all, do what you have in the market or on the web. There are a lot of projects of open source that you need to, where you can grab and contribute to those projects. We offered some tools that can be really useful if you are working here in Europe, if you want to apply for CE mark, but similar is for United States and many other countries who are sharing similar regulation. You need to classify your device in terms of risk. If you know the risk classification, you are at the half of the procedure. And this usually used to cost, if you're a company, it will cost you around $10,000 if you go to an engineering office asking, I have this idea, I want to go on the market, how much does it cost? And then they will interview you, do their research and say, okay, this is a class 1 medical device, $8,000. So then you pay and then they ask you for more, for bring you to the market. So this tool provides you to, to save some money to use for something else. And the same is for regulation. A series of yes or no questions allow you to identify for free on the platform, and just in brackets, at this stage, the project that you are developing is your project, is not visible to the other people. You can decide at the end if you want to share as we all, but in general, we are providing a tool. So you can go there, apply for your project, do your regulation checklist and identify the horizontal standards that usually no one is telling you that they do apply. This is not something that you can identify with a Google search if you look for standard crutches and then I'm a lucky person. Okay, no, you have to study and usually it will take a lot of time. And this tool provides you like some horizontal standards. And then you go through all these other work packages, allow you to make comparison with various conceptual design, identifying the best solution with your teammates, voting in terms of feasibility, reliability, material, and so on. There are many check points in which you can review completely your device until like a table in which you say, this is my device. I need, for example, clean water supply. I need batteries. The off-the-shelf life is this. I need maintenance every 3 months. So some information that are really useful to think since the beginning before going in the first prototype. And then you start an iteration. And the platform guides you step by step. Once you arrive at this work package 4, this means that, it's a lot of work. It's not something that you do in 2 nights working on your computer, but it's a matter of fact that you need to test your hypothesis. You need to test your device. You need to test if it is compliant, at least as a design, to the standards that you identified at the beginning, and then say, okay, this is the device that I designed. The simulation tell me that I can resist to those weight. So I can put like a check. I'm compliant in this, in this, in this, in this point. And even if you are not compliant, it's important to clarify clearly, okay, I'm compliant with all this ISO, not with, I don't know, ISO 10993 on biocompatibility. Then someone else can help you in that specific point, considering that the rest are satisfied. At this stage, you can download this pre-production document, which is structured according to ISO 13485, which is the standard for good manufacturing procedure of medical device. That is like a save of money if you want to move forward and apply for CE mark. Then you have some additional work packages if you want to promote. The idea is to allow you to structure the business model that you see for your device. There is a sort of lean business model canvas. Lean means that not all the boxes that are in the standard business model canvas are required, because usually this is made by engineering students who don't think too much about business, but is enough complex also for MBA students who can recognize in this framework the concept that they will apply later when actually they want to create their own spin-off. And then you can present to the public whatever you want. Of course, there are some teaching material that you are invited to see. There are some manuals. At the moment, actually, these slides, I picked from an old presentation, these slides. Now we are 1,300 people of verified users. So this presentation was made more or less 1 year ago. In this period, I remember this actually presentation, but I mean, we doubled the number of users. And to do that, like provide to this point, we are promoting a series of summer schools and design schools. As we see later, both like on-site and online school, exploiting the virtual nature of the platform. These schools were done, this is in Pisa, this was in Nairobi. These are some students that were involved in a company producing like a walking frame. Some of them involve high school students, other universities, and so on. And here you have a list of devices. Without going in detail, it's out of the scope, but probably you can find some information useful for your own research, or try to be in contact with people with similar mentality, similar interests. I'm just going to present you one project that can be of your interest. This is a very well documented and open project that you can go on the platform and download. This was a project developed by students who had a family history of breast cancer. So she was really, I mean, passionate for this problem. One woman over 8 will develop a breast cancer, and you can do, for example, in this case, self-examination, but many women are not doing that. Why? For many reasons. The first is that they are not self-confident to understand what they are feeling. And then we did a survey. We interview with doctors and say, if you can provide a device who can, as a thermometer, you can scan your breast without with a limited pain and without any risk for the women, probably you can invite them, in case they are in trouble, to visit the doctors. And this is what we did, using like a sort of a bra. let's skip this slide, which is, I mean, a bit tricky. This is something that can be useful on the platform for the risk assessment. But this device allowed you like to make this self-palpation with inflatable balloons and like a tissue sensor that can understand the level of deformation that you will apply to the tissue when you press it to your breast. And if the left to the right is different, probably you have something stiffer inside your breast. This can be an indication of something not normal. Then it will ask you to control. If it is everything okay, you can repeat the test the months after, and then you can keep your health under control. And even if you are not, this device will also help you to be aware, even if it's not the gold standard. The gold standard is like mammography or other type of test. Even if it's not the gold standard, it will help women to be aware of the problem and remind them that it's not like something to be put not under control. And let me share these videos just for, I was thinking that it was clickable. I don't know. I think we are quite on time. I mean, I'm okay with my mental schedule. Oops. This is the video about the achievement in February 2012. This is about what we are and what we are doing. This was a meeting in Kampala. This was like a meeting with a very important foundation for breast cancer. There are a lot of connection, a lot of promotion of health regulation, many fairs. So it was like a growing community. People visited. This is one of our PhD students, for example. Probably you know this old person more than this one. For example, there was like an on-site school in Uganda where we used UBORA. We promoted the prototyping of those devices. But and this is self-sustained from this point of view. And this is something that if you consider where we started with practically very limited budget. It's a very impressive. But at the moment we arrived in February, March 2020, in which, I mean, we had a world crisis. And COVID-19 put all the academic community, all of us as an engineer, in front of a question. Is technology innovation ready to respond to this crisis? Is not Ebola, which is like an horrible morb, but with a limited diffusion. We are speaking about the entire world. So we as a community, we have been in charge for finding solution. And there was like a number of devices, a number of makers, scientists who try to help the community, try to have an impact. For example, this is like a very famous mask. This is a mask from Decathlon, who was modified by this group of engineers. It's called Easy Nova, who applied this mask with this valve to be used as a ventilator in the ventilator for ventilation of COVID patients in a moment in which no masks were available and people were dying. We as a group of engineers here in Pisa, we spent days in trying to help doctors to find the correct mask because we were invaded by a number of, you call it N95. Here in Europe, we call FFP2 or FFP3 mask. There was a lot of confusion in terms of surgical mask. So we gave our contribution. In open source medical device provided an enormous contribution. These were some friends in Madrid who were involved in the printing of a face shield. These are part of the UBORA group who gave to doctors this face shield to protect with PPE the doctors. But we gave a great contribution, but just to understand the situation in which we are moving at the moment, to understand if actually we are helpful, if we have an impact, or at the moment we need to find a better way, or is there a way better than another, how to deploy, how to use this enormous effort from all of us in solving the question. So according to you, just think about a simple device, think about the ventilator. How many ventilators were trying to be developed by people during the COVID pandemic? 10 to 50, 50 to 100, more than 100? More than 100, you are right. The majority of us replied less than 100 if we like aggregate data, but 40% of us did the correct answer. If you go on this spreadsheet, it's like a collection and you can see how many ventilators. Look, 146 at the different stage, okay? And these are only those which were mapped. Many more were developed by other people who didn't put on the web. And think about if you are a doctor in an emergency situation and you ask to the engineers of the machine shop of the hospital, hey, please, I saw the people on the TV who are trying to 3D print a mask. Can you print it for me? Oh, but they are working, but with a different machine. No, you can solve the problem if you think about that. We need to find a way to create synergies within those projects to avoid the waste of our effort. So trust me, we try to do this process involving both makers and research institutions. This was one of the efforts in which we participated in as UBORA, was like a platform created in Italy. We were one of the first countries in Europe who suffered for COVID-19 pandemic before United States. We were for weeks the hottest point in the map regarding the number of cases. We were like together with China at the beginning, and then we were under lockdown for months, and now we are going back. We have different level of lockdown. And what we did is inviting people who have solution and people who can transform those solution and try to print or to fabricate those solution to be in the same place. And we were asked for vetting these technologies. Just to make you an example, I'm going to this project just to show you how really engineering can work. The solution proposed by EasyNova, the one that is pretty famous, the inventors were, super skilled people. But however, the pressure drop of the mask does not allow to have a complete ventilation. In the moment of emergency, it was okay because or mask or die. But after a few months, in which the situation is more stable. Why don't we try to understand better how we can improve the device? And then other students, other researchers included an additional valve to balance the pressure. Or just to make other example, there were like a number of problems with tubes and connection. We asked to inventors to please follow the color code that is standard, so doctors cannot spend their time to understand if the tube has to be placed in this way or in this way. And trust me, trying to involve makers in researcher in respect regulation was really hard, because it's quite hard to understand the real needs, because no one explained it to those bright students, those bright researchers, that clinicians have specific needs and we don't have to push technology because we like. And this is the most important lesson that we try to teach, and we try with our competition that was promoted also by Protocol Labs, that is like a no-profit not-for-profit contribution to sustain those projects. We create a competition, and for example, there are some projects that are, let's say, really technology focused, like COVID and artificial intelligence or monitoring device, but also some projects that help it just to move up and down the patients, which is required in critical care unit. And this was selected because they spoke with clinician. And for example, the device, the ventilator developed by students in Nairobi following the design specification indicated in UBORA allowed those students and the entire university to go on clinical trial. I mean, a student's project in clinical trial to save life is amazing. I mean, in 3 months. This is an impact. Even if they saved one life, or if they gave 10 more days to a people, this is an impact. But they achieved that impact because the design was made in order to be ready to be certified. Okay, this is the most important part. And then let me briefly tell also about this other story that we lived together with Diana. This was like a boot camp in which 100 students, 100 students from the entire Africa, this is the map, collaborated in a project on UBORA, divided in groups for 2 weeks. Many of them had very brilliant ideas. Some of them probably will follow their specific development, but this infrastructure with these ideas in mind, so those students were exposed to this process for developing devices. So this is a way, according to us, to have an impact on the future developers in the African continent, where probably those devices will be deployed first and used first. And this is like numbers that we achieved. I don't want to be too much on this. The nice things to say is that we try to reproduce online what we used to do on site. Conceive, design, implement, operate, even if the operate, of course, is not feasible, but at least you can conceive, interview people, understand what is wrong, what can be fixed. Then you can design according to regulation. And these are the 2 weeks. It was like a very amazing experience. I submitted a project paper where all the people involved were named as authors. I hope it will be approved and then shared with all of you, also to understand our mistakes, but also what we did right to involve 100 students for 2 weeks, 6 hours per day, plus the time which they were not online, to have very good design. With, I mean, a very large participation from many institutions who gave us the permission to involve their professor. This idea of having, I want to say, democratized technology, in the meaning that we want to have a very larger number of people to have access to high quality medical device. We try to make a manifesto. I invite you to sign, to read the document. If you agree, provide your comments. And of course, why not improve our approach? And to do that, I definitely ask you to fill this form. You can find the link also on Engineering for Change page. Yesterday, I saw it's still there in the health part of the website. Try to provide your idea in which you think is important to move forward in terms of standard technologies and future and emerging technologies, and way to teach them also. Not only in terms what is important, what is less important, but what according to you is more feasible to achieve or less feasible, so we can like provide the results to the World Health Organization that can like possibly help in building working groups in specific topics. That's it. Thank you very much. I hope we are on time and I was not too long.
Thank you, Carmelo. That's really inspiring and powerful information that you've shared with us, especially, I think, you know, you discussed having an impact, having a student project go to clinical trial, just amazing, right? And enabling that structure and creating a space for true co-design is, I think, really impressive. There's a lot of Q&A. You inspired a lot of like really great questions. And I don't think we're going to get to all of that. But one of the things that I think, I'll just try and synthesize it. And then, of course, we're going to have, for people who haven't seen our seminars before, we always give all of the questions to the speakers and they can respond in written form. It will be posted next to the recording of the seminar on the E4C webpage, so you can see it there if we don't get to your question. But I just wanted to ask you, you know, medical devices. So I really only have 2 questions I want to ask you, and I'm trying to put things together here. The first is medical devices and this sector, as you've discussed. You have all this regulatory framework, we have standards, and I think a lot of the questions revolve around this idea that those standards and clinical needs and everything is really assuming a particular context. In this case, sort of the global north context, right? So in the United States, if we have a regulatory framework, we have an assumption around what the context of that clinical need is and the clinical environment, right? And that might change if you were in a different context. So if you're in another country, both the operating environment and the regulatory environment probably are different, right? And so some of the questions were around, how does UBORA, when you're trying to, you know, say, hey, here's an ISO standard for this particular thing, how does that take into account, or how does that take into account people trying to understand that context of where this device is going to be used and how it's going to be used?
Okay, thank you for the question. And it's important to say that at the moment, we have most of the African countries and many other countries with limited resources, let's say, designed their own regulation, where most of the country has a regulation according to the European perspective more than the American one, which are like pretty similar, apart from some differences in terms of the procedure, like formal procedure. So the idea to have 4 classes of risk do apply to more or less all over the world. We have the International Medical Regulation Forum who are promoting this harmonization of medical device. The right question is, according to me, do the standards take into account the different environment in which we are moving? So this is a matter of standards, so technical question, not regulation. According to me, the standards have been developed in order to have various devices compatible in order to make comparison. So standards from this point of view are a very powerful tool. So you are sure that like an M5 screws produced in Singapore will screw something in UK without any problem. The problem sometimes is like some people say, so the requirements for the thermometer is too strict to have a good production in, I don't know, Burundi. Probably it's better to lower the standard. No, the people in Burundi have the same rights to have the right technology as all the other people. The standards have to promote reliable devices. So we need to push the people who are producing those thermometers to make it works in different scenarios respect to the very clean clinic in the center of Italy. So this is the step that we need to move forward and to identify the design to make this more reliable. We have, when I visited Africa, there were like all the people with a mobile phone and the mobile phone will work properly. Why an electrocardiographer cannot work properly? So we need to make it more robust, and we have to provide electrical safety standards in terms of reliability respect to the power supply, much more robust, and provide solution that can be easily shared. This is my view, actually.
That's really great. I think that answers a lot of some of the questions. But I think you know, you touched on sort of, it's not about can we cut sort of functionality to meet some price point or some cost or some other sort of system level thing. Is how do we create a design? How do we innovate in such a way to meet these high standards and requirements that we're looking for within these international standards that we set? I think there's some.
I'm sorry, if I want to like conceptualize, because sometimes we like to. This is called reverse innovation.
Right.
So you start from not by like eliminating feature, but create a new product that sometimes is very useful, not only in the place where it was created. Many times it happened in India. But it's useful in more developed country who will discover innovative solution. There was like a very nice ambu bag that was not manually moved, but with the feet, giving the nurse the hands free to operate. So, and this was invented in India.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, different contexts, different constraints can lead to new designs, which, you know, have higher performance and therefore are useful everywhere, as you're pointing out. There's some really great books and work on reverse innovation. So yeah, absolutely 100% on board with that. I think in the biomedical space, it's particularly important. I think we're going to have to wrap now, so I'm going to pass it to Yana. I have lots more questions for you, Carmelo, so hopefully I'll be able to connect with you at an offline way so that I can ask you all the questions that I have, because UBORA is such an inspiring project and tool. And I think it's really amazing how you've been able to create this sort of community space to get those sort of rigorous designs and do it in a collaborative way, and then get around a lot of these obstacles that I think other people are running into. So I'm really happy you were able to share that with us today. I'm going to pass it to Yana, as I said, but I just want to thank you personally. Thank you. And we will be sending all these questions for people who asked so that they can get them. And then we will hopefully connect. And if people want to connect with you, they can find you. We have your contact information, and I will let Yana wrap. So Yana, can you please take it away from me?
Sure, and thank you again also, Carmelo. This was inspiring and lots of questions that we'll likely have to address in written form. I know we're over time, and I thank you to all of our listeners who stayed with us a little bit longer. Just wanted to also highlight that we have our final seminar of 2020, which will happen on December the 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to accommodate our presenters who are from Melbourne, Australia, and will be speaking about their work at our MIT's Humanitarian Engineering Lab. So we do invite you all to join us. And with that, I want to thank you all for attending. If you have questions that didn't get addressed, feel free to email us. Carmelo also was generous enough to put his email directly into the chat, so feel free to reach out to him. Do fill out the survey that he noted. It's really meaningful for his team as they evolve the programs. And with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us, encourage you all to meet us again virtually at Impact Engineered on December 3rd and 4th. And do sign up to become E4C members so you can hear more about seminars, our events, and other opportunities to build out your career in this incredible sector. Thank you so much, Carmelo. Grazie mille.
Grazie mille a tutti.
Grazie. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.